Test. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome for our second conference of the afternoon. I'm very pleased to welcome Benoît Desmonts-Éclair, CEO and co-founder of NCScale, to talk about how to build a no-code and AI infrastructure. Welcome, Benoît.
Thank you, Margot. Thank you, Margot. Hello, everyone. Hi, Alexis. Hi, Anthony. Thank you for accepting my invitation. Thank you all for attending our talk, How to Build a No-Code and AI Infrastructure. I'm Benoît, the CEO and the co-founder of NCScale, and monitoring tool and observability product to make your no-code stack reliable. Before we start, I would like to explain why we have been working so hard for 2 years on this product. No-code is a worldwide success because the tools are easy to use. That's it. And we need to remember this before asking too many new features to editors. And that's why no-code tools are missing so many features when you want to push boundaries, such as API weight limit, log, versioning, you name it. And when you realize that even with such user-friendly tool and limited features, you can create a multi-million-dollar e-commerce or an ERP for the airline industry, you might find yourself in a weird, unknown place. You have a weird feeling, a feeling of insecurity. Has anyone in this room ever had this feeling before? Raise your hand. Tell the truth. Thank you. It's like you were cheating at a game and you are not entirely sure that you are allowed to do it. You are cheating with security, with maintainability, with reliability, and with scalability. So I want to be clear with you, you are not alone. And this feeling is normal. You might wonder why NCScale was founded. Just like Nike collaborated with Michael Jordan to create the famous sneakers and make him the greatest basketball player of all time. We are, at NCScale, dedicated to create the best equipment, to create the best product to this new kind of no-coders. Those no-coders who are pushing boundaries. Thanks to these no-coders, we can announce today that we are our first deep integration with world-class no-code products like Xano and WeWeb, and even soon Zapier. These products truly understood that advanced no-coders required more freedom and more integration to push boundaries. And the future of no-code is going in that direction. And we are part of it. Now, let's start this talk. We have invited the best low and no-coders at this summit so they can share their knowledge on pushing boundaries. Please give a warm welcome to Anthony and Alexis, and we start with Anthony with GoJob.
Hi, everybody. So I'm Anthony, and I will show you now how we scale AI within NoCode at GoJob. So for our beginning, before we start, what is GoJob? There is some information about GoJob. You can read it here. The most important ones is we are in France, we are in Aix-en-Provence. We are in 2 countries, so France and the USA. And we are very proud to be a B Corp, so a social impact company. Oh, it means something. Perfect. So I want to show you our stack. It's important for us to understand the story I'm going to tell you. It starts with automations, and especially Make, who help us to connect different concepts each other. So for example, we have our internal tools with our back office, developed by our tech team, our GoJob data lab with our artificial intelligence, who help us to match the profile of a worker and a need of a customer. We have data, like a data stack, like Google Cloud Platform, PostgreSQL for our standard databases, and Airtable or Google Sheet for our NoCode tools, NoCode projects. We have different fronts, like Retool, Bubble, or Notion. We can use it as a front. And we also use services, different services, for example, Twilio for sending SMS, Slack to communicate, and the Google Sheet. So the question we asked ourselves was, when we have a new tool like ChatGPT and OpenAI services, where we can put this tool in our stack? And everybody wants, and I think use it like a services. It's a new services, and we try to do it differently. Up. And we try to integrate it as a plugin of our automation in Make to do smarter automation. And thinking this way allows us to think about new use cases, unimagined before. And I'm going to show you some of these simple use cases who have a big impact. So the first one is the job offer generation. The job offer generation, I think everybody tried to did this one. We have at GoJob customer who want a temp worker, and we need to create the job offer. So we have a marketing team. A big part of their job is just to create this job offer, so write it. And it takes a lot of time. So we decided to automatize this based on information we already have. So we have business managers who are working with our customers, and our business manager writes the specific need of a customer in a form, and we decided to use this form data to generate automatically the job description, and it's based on this information and from a template designed by our marketing team. So our marketing team do not have anymore to write job description, and they can focus on more important, valuable tasks, like the visibility, for example, of this job description, this job offer. The second use case is an automatic contract generation. When we want to send to a customer temp worker, we have to create a contract. It's a legal obligation. So for creating this contract, we need information from different parts, like the client information, the temp worker information. But we decided to focus on one information difficult to take. And this information is the planning of the worker. Today, to have a planning of a specific temp worker, we have a mail with a specific template and just a comment of the customer who say it's a mission from Wednesday to Saturday and the hours associated. And it do not have any specific way to catch this information with unusual information. The business manager takes this information and go back in our back office to create these little things, to fill these little things to generate the contract planning of our worker. So what we decided to do is to take this comment and put it on make as an input and ask ChatGPT to restructure this comment as a JSON which can be understood by our automation and our back office. So it's just a thing. It was not possible to think about this before, and it's work. So what's new? It's a new way to think automation. It's great use cases, but it's not so great. So we have to think about some things. So we have benefits. Our automation are becoming core of business. What does that mean? We have automation, and we do not. It's not possible for us to do not control one of the parts of this automation because they are becoming so much important. And the second one is NoCode is a perfect playground for ChatGPT because with NoCode we can think about these use cases. We can create them, we can test them, we can iterate on it, update it, talk with the business to try to find a good process, and we can understand really, really quickly and easily it works. Our problem is we do not control the ChatGPT outputs, and it's a big one. So what do we need? We ask ourselves, what do we need? We need two things. We need visibility. I need to be able to monitor my ChatGPT outputs. Everything ChatGPT sends me when I make a request, I need to know the output. The second thing is alerting. I can't control the output of ChatGPT, but I need to be able to know when something wrong is happening. And I need annotation. I need to be able to find a bad behavior and note information on it to have an impact, an indirect impact into the prompt. And the second one, control. I need to be able to build quickly a prompt, to iterate on it, learn from it. I need agility. I need to be able to test this prompt to understand if the behavior is great. And I need versioning because I want to match an output with a version of a prompt. So what do we do to scale this process? First of all, we designed a mindset. At GoJob, we want everybody to take benefit of these use cases. But what we want also, the user has to see what happened, and they have to report all this unusual behavior. So everybody is owner at GoJob of this automation and these use cases. So to answer of this the answer of this problem is Agile Vision. Agile Vision is a tool we build to find easily every output by use cases and by user. And it's possible to see all this output, annotate all this output, and evaluate these outputs, and do some extraction of evaluations. And we designed a new way to design prompt. So we have 3 tables. The first one, with general information, allow us just to adding in our prompt general information. For example, you have to generate a text message or a long text description. A role table for the action of the prompt. So you are managing pay issues. And the assistant, so I'm the assistant of Anthony, I am the assistant of a payroll manager. And after this, we create Agile Brain. So Agile Brain is our own homemade prompt builder. We can create prompt from scratch. We can create prompt from these bricks, general, role, or assistant. We can update this prompt and have an impact directly in our automation when the prompt is updated. We do versioning of this prompt, and of course, we have a way to test this prompt to see if the behavior is great. And how it's working in automation, in a really simple automation, I take back the use case of the hourly cycle. So I just want to convert a comment to JSON and a JSON. So in my input, I just add my assistant ID, so the ID of my prompt, and my input, so the comment. I get the prompt with an Airtable module. After that, I go to ChatGPT, and as you can see, everything is a variable. So the assistant description is assistant 1, system is general, personae it's the role. And after that, in the user thing, I can add my comment, and after that I have my output, and it generates a JSON, and I can't automatically create the planning part of the contract. So, for finishing, we use a lot NC scale in this use case because, as you can see in our stack, we have different dependencies, and the full search, full text search is really great to find these use cases when we have to update something. For example, in different use cases, we can have early cycle automation with ChatGPT. In Vision, we saw an output, a weird output. We want to check this. I can go directly in NC scale, in the NC scale tool. The full text search helped me to find all the automation with this use case, linked to this use case, and voila. Thanks.
Hello, everybody. Oh, do you hear me? Yes, you do. Today, I want to talk about quality and how you can build quality low-code architectures with AI and tooling. I think that quality is a subject that we don't talk about enough, and it's a real issue when it comes to no-code. Now, to give you a bit of context, I've been working for the past 4 years on different architectures. I started with a Bubble app, and since I've joined Theodo, I've been going on more and more complex applications. The most recent one is for the biggest investment fund in Europe. It's called the BP, and it's 60 plus developers. There's WeWeb, there's Webflow, there's also a bit of custom in Java and Angular. And as I've been working on these platforms, I've realized the importance of quality. And technical quality is at the center of these companies, not for an innocent reason, but because technical quality is deeply tied to business growth. Now, if you want to know more about this, there's a great book. It's called Accelerate. It is the result of a study by 3 great software architects that are Gene Kim, Jess Humble, and Nico Forsgren that goes into the nitty-gritty details about how quality and business growth are deeply linked and tied. Now, this brings us to low-code. In my world, which is the developing world, custom development, low-code is often associated with low quality and impending long-term doom. Many people in the open spaces where I work tell me, oh, you do low code, you're never going to be able to maintain your apps. And I have to agree that, in a certain way, I actually agree with this graph, even though I think we're going in the right direction. So today, what I want to talk to you about is what are the biggest architectural flaws that I've faced in low code and how I've tried to overcome them. So to start this, I first of all read a few books about the best software architects and what they were doing. 2 of them are really good, and if you want to know more about them, read them. So it's Clean Architecture by Robert Cecil Martin. He's the same guy that also wrote Clean Code and many things in development that is really known today. And the other one is Become an Awesome Software Architect by Anatoly Volkova. He's a serial entrepreneur that's made millions of businesses go flourish, and I really recommend them. The first things that we want to look at is business metrics, or this is what I call what your CEO is only interested in. It's cost, build time, performance, and features. When it comes to this, low-code is very clear in what it offers. You have low cost, low build time, performance is, well, what it is, and features are the one that are available. So I'd say that, at least on this one, it's kind of fine. The next one is collaboration. Is it easy to hire? Now, when I see the event that is happening right now, I feel as though hiring isn't going to be that much of an issue on these tools. There's also developer experience, and do these things enable multiple work streams of development? Is it possible to collaborate on these tools? Now, editors over the past year have made great leaps in terms of the quality of collaboration. They've allowed things like branching, like in-code live editing, that have really helped us collaborate inside these tools. The next thing is iteration. Is the code reusable? Am I going to be able to make my code evolve in the long run? Now, plugins are a bit of an issue, and that's why I would be a bit like, this isn't the best thing, but the vendor lock-in situation has really gotten better. Many tools have either gone open source, or they allow you to export code, which means that in the long run, if you really have issues, you can take the code, build with NoCode, and do more with them. And we've done this already a few times with WeWeb. It works extremely well. So now that we see this, well, I've only said pretty good stuff. So this is the one where I think that we have a lot of issues, and that is stability. Today, in terms of monitoring, testing, security, and hosting, there isn't a lot done for us, and as a developer, it's super frustrating to use NoCode because of this in the run phase. So I'm going to talk about stability in 2 points. The first one is stability while we're building, and it's going to have to do with tests. NoCode is renowned to have little to no environment for us to be able to test, so that's the first thing that I'm going to do. And once we'll be able to build, I'm going to look at the run phase and monitoring, and how we can monitor our applications a bit better. So let's talk about the first pane. And I'm going to tell you a little story. A few months ago, I was working on a private equity company. And this private equity company had an app with 2 personas that could communicate with them. One was administrators, and the other were counselors. And they asked me to do something quite simple. I want a new persona. So like most good developers, I audited my application, and I was like, what do I need to change? Now, at the time, it had been about 5 months that I'd been developing this application, which, by the way, it's this stack. So WeWeb Xano with a custom CMS for content management called Strappy, and a custom SSO for authentication. And I had to change about 80 endpoints or more in Xano and about 10 or more pages. So I made all the changes, and I tried to use the debug functions in the tools like WeWeb and Xano, hoping that I had done my best job. But what had to happen, happened. I pushed into production, and 2 hours in, I was getting phone call after phone call after phone call. Now, this was at a time where my client didn't have a lot of money, so he didn't pay me to have things like backups. So I couldn't just revert the changes. I was stuck with them. It took me about 4 days to fix. A lot of sleepless nights of me thinking, when is this going to be over? Because every single hour a new bug was being declared. And a very stressed client to fix too, which can be very complicated when they're used to normal quality and code quality, where this doesn't happen so often. Now, as this was happening, I was thinking to myself, well, it shouldn't be my responsibility to think of everything. When I'm coding, I let the machine do most of the work, because I don't want to have to think of everything. It should be the machine's job to do that, and not mine. With NoCode, it's a bit of a black box. We don't have access to the code. So the first thing that I thought of was end-to-end tests. For people who don't know what end-to-end tests are, it's the way to simulate as a user. You don't need to know the code base. It's basically like if there's a button and I click and I go to another page, that's what you're going to check. So I tried to put this into place. The first thing that I found is the pay-to-win solution. It's using a SaaS that leverages AI and that creates end-to-end automatically. Now, this SaaS is really good, but for every single test, you're going to be paying $40 per test per month. Now, if they weren't ready to pay backup versions, there was no way that I was going to implement this on my tool. So the second thing I did was, well, I'm going to set them up myself. I'm a developer, I can do it. So I created my code repository. I added Cypress. So Cypress is a library that allows you to write end-to-end tests. Then I wrote my end-to-end test using ChatGPT, thinking that I was super smart because I wasn't coding that much. Then I ran the tests, and then I stored the code for the next iteration. This took me about 4 hours to do, and at the end I was pretty satisfied with what I've done, but I still thought to myself, this is very developer-y. And so when I sort of was like, well, is it really worth it? The SaaS option was very effective. I didn't have anything to do. There was no burden on my mind, but it's very expensive. And on the other end, when I did it myself, well, it's less expensive, but I'm still spending time developing it, which is bad, and it's only for developers. And when I think of low-code, I want things that anybody can use. I'm not interested in doing things just for myself. I want to empower my team. I want to empower my coworkers. So I thought, well, I need to find something for them. And if end-to-end tests aren't accessible to every single citizen user, maybe I can find a way to at least test my APIs. The logic behind this was that behind APIs, you can find the data layer, and it's the first thing that I want to protect. I want to make sure that nobody can access my data or modify my data. It's more important than having my UI broken in the front end. So I put this into place, and I found something. And I'm going to be presenting a tool called Postman, which is a very known tool in the developing world, and how you can leverage AI using Postman. So Postman works like this. The first thing that you type is the URL. So this is my Xano endpoint, and I'm contacting the /auth/login. /auth/login is the endpoint that's called when you're entering your username and password. In Postman, you can add parameters. So here is my email and my password. And then you have the response, which here is invalid credentials. Now, of course, I didn't want to share with you my real password, so don't worry. It's not broken. It's normal. And when I present this, you could be thinking to yourselves, well, this is basically what debug functions do. My Xano functions, I can do this. I can write parameters, and it gives me the response back. So why is this useful? It's useful because I can generate tests, and I can have test cases, which means that on every single one of my Xano endpoints now, I can have access to more information that I can't have in the tools that I use on a day-to-day basis. And the Postman AI allows me to write a number of tests that looks like this once you run them. So if you log every single one of your Xano endpoints into the tool, you have access to a full list of test suites where you can have a lot of information about every single one of your endpoints. Now you can also see that I have response time and that you can test the performance of routes too, which is another information that I was lacking at the time. So this is really cool. But for those of you who are most techy, you'll know that there's an issue with Postman. The URL that I was writing was my production URL, which means that at the moment, if I do this, the moment where I'm detecting bugs is in production. So the number of real users that are impacted are still every single one. And this doesn't stick well with me. I want to be in pre-production or any environment before, because there's no reason to test bugs if you're testing them in production. Now, this is why I'm very happy that editors over the past year have made great advancements in the quality of their products. And these are the kind of things that I've been asking them to release for quite some time. The first thing is branches. Branches allows you to have different environments, and for every time you create a new branch, you get a new URL, which means that now I have a URL which isn't my production, so I can test before production. Now, there's still an issue, though, is that the data that I'm manipulating is still production data, and I don't want that. I want a test environment where I'm testing before production on data that only me sees and not my clients. And they've released this too. So Xano has test data. Other things have too. Retool, you can do this with Retool, you can do this with Airtable. So it works really well, and now you have environments, and it's easy to test. If there's one thing to remember, it's that as a developer, you want to keep most of your strength for the tasks that actually give you value. And this is something that we find a lot in lean culture. Lean culture, it's deeply linked that you must let the machine do everything that the machine can do, and you don't want to have the responsibility. It's a way of respecting yourself to let the machine do things for you. So, I forgot a slide. I implemented this on my stack, and since then I've had no bugs in Xano. And other developers that aren't me, that are no-coders, have also done this. And the number of bugs on Xano, so I've been tracking them for about a year. We implemented this 6 months back. It's been divided by about 4, which is great, according to me. The second thing is monitoring. Now, I was talking to an IT director of a French industrial group that does about 100 million a year. And he told me, I want to redo my entire IT system. But whatever you do, I want information about analytics, user information, what are they doing, where are they going. I want to have loggings and bug detection, super easy. I want to have performance metrics. Is my app going well? And this even after the build time, because once you're in run, you never look at your application again. And if a page starts charging in like 500 seconds, you won't know about it if you're not building. And the last thing is dependencies. As architectures get bigger, you don't have one tool. You have 3 tools, 4 tools, 5 tools. At the BPE, it's a microservice architecture, which means that there are 22 different tools that are used inside the BPE. And if you don't know what's communicating with what, there is no way that you're ever going to be able to maintain this in the long run. So what I did is that, well, first I freaked out because I had no idea how to do this. And then I looked at sort of the state of what I knew how to do. And this is what it looked like. Now, analytics has been solved for quite some time. Editors, like Bubble, have already implemented this quite a long time ago. And you can connect other tools that are known in the software environment very quickly. So at the BPE, we connected Amplitude with WeWeb very easily. For generally, we connected Google Analytics. And honestly, you can find tutorials online that do this really well, so I'm not going to go over it more than this. But do it. The second thing is logging in bugs. Today, what we have that is available to us is this type of workflow. In every single one of the workflow that you're building on your tools, be it Bubble, Airtable, whatever, you can set a thing that says that on fail, it sends me a Slack message with the error. And this is what most people today are using. The thing is, you have to do this on every single workflow, on every single API endpoint, and on every single tool. And this is what is so annoying with this, is that the readability of your code goes down, because every single time you're coding, you have to implement this on top. And in the long run, when you have 300, 400 API endpoints, this is so much code and so much time that you're using to do something that is very easy to do and that you shouldn't be doing yourself. Now, what would I want? The thing that I would want is a centralized tool that sort of recaps every single tool and where I have the metrics for all of them in one place. For an IT director, this is invaluable. Because, as I was saying for the BPE, he has 23 different services. He's not going to log into 23 different services to know what's happening. And these kind of tools, they exist in the coding world. The most known ones are Sentry, Datadog, and HyperDX. So if you ever want to do this, the first 2 are super expensive. The third one is an open source variation that's really good. Look into that one first if you don't have a lot of budget. And they integrate with every single coding tool today that's available on the market. Now, as I said at the beginning, I was working with Bubble, and NCScale was actually answering the problematics that I had with my IT director. I had observability, I had security and quality, and I had monitoring, and it was really well done. I had the same quality that I had when I was using coding tools. The issue is, well, this was only on Bubble at the time. And it didn't exist on the tools that I were using, which was WeWeb, Xano, Retool, and Airtable. Even though Airtable did exist, I just didn't use it. So 2 weeks ago, Benoit called me, and he said, I've got a Xano integration with monitoring. And I was like, well, I don't have everything that I want, but I need to test this, because I'm looking for this, and I want to have more feedback to give to the IT director. So I tested it on my private equity app, and this is what happened. It took me about 10 minutes to integrate, and I was able to remove about 50 snippets in Xano. Now, I only removed 50 because I'm a bit of a lazy developer, and I had stopped doing the workflow one error. It was just too annoying. So on top of that, what's good is that it does it for you on workflows where you're too lazy to do it yourself. And it's even better for citizen developers, because since they aren't always familiar with how these kind of things work, they don't have to think of anything. Everything is done for them. The second thing, and it's the second reason why this is so good, is that I have consistent error detection, and the granularity on the type of bugs that I get is much better than before. Before, it was basically, if I've got an error, send me a Slack message, always the same. Now, I can put out observers where I know exactly what's happening, if it's linked to authorization, if it's linked to a problem in the business logic. So I have much more granularity on what I can find in terms of information, and that is what is really useful to me as a developer. So, hooray, some of our issues are fixed. And even though in the run phase everything hasn't been done, I know that Benoit and his team and other people are also working on this so that we have a tool that can finally monitor entire applications and very complex architectures. So the question that I want to kind of answer is, how far away are we from good low-code quality? If I had done this talk about a year ago, I would have told you on one of the first slides where I said, what do software architects look at, that collaboration was bad. Because we didn't have branching, we didn't have test environments, and all of those things are really so important when it comes to collaboration that I couldn't say to people, I want to use low-code with these architectures, because the moment their teams would have scaled, it would have been unable to use these tools. The same goes for code reusability. Since then, now we have design systems, we have functions. There are many more things that have been put into place by editors so that we can reuse code and evolve quicker. So what I believe is that the testing suites, for example, will be integrated one day in Xano. And I've been talking to Prakash, who's the CEO of Xano, and it's something that I know that they're interested to look at, and they probably will work on in the next year. Now, we still need tools that help us in the run phase, but currently I think that NCScale is on its way to be the biggest editor when it comes to monitoring, and that soon they will take over the industry, the low-code industry, when it comes to huge apps and monitoring. So finally, as a developer, this is a bit my hot take. What I believe will change about the software development ecosystem in the years to come. Currently, if you don't have when the quality isn't good enough, you have to default to custom code. It's the only option that you have. But a few years from now, I think that low-code tools would be on the same par of quality when it comes to custom code. And so the way that we think products and that architects have to think about building low-code architectures, or maybe just architectures as a whole, will change. If the features that you want to implement exist in a low-code tool, we'll use it first, and we'll only add custom code later, instead of having custom code come first and low-code for the sort of anecdotal things where you don't need monitoring or anything that I've talked about. Thanks a lot for having listened to me. If you want to know more about this, I've put a few references to go further. And you can always send me an email or contact me if you want to talk to me about quality or architectures in general. Have a great day.
Thank you very much, Alexis. Now we have 10 minutes to answer to your questions, so do not hesitate. It's so insightful to listen and to your experience as advanced no-coders, and I hope that you learn a lot today. So be free to ask as many questions as you want to these new no-coders.
In English. Hello, my name is Laurent. I'm head of engineering at ChargeGuru. I wanted to know how you handle the concurrency on your scripts. I understood everyone is a company's owner on your automations. How do you handle having so many people working on several scripts and potentially rewrites something that has written someone else? How do you handle that? Without versioning, or with NCScale, how do you handle working on a lot of scenarios with a lot of people simultaneously?
We test it.
You test it?
Yes, directly in our tools. When I show a slide with what we call brain, and in this environment, we can build and we can test our use case, and we can test with the user, the final user, and ourselves to see if the behavior is okay. And what we did also, we can generate automatic tests with what we call a library of input to see if the behavior is great for, I don't know, maybe 50 examples.
We have another question here.
Thank you both, gentlemen. That was really insightful and helpful to all of us. I was hoping that you might be able to go back to the end-to-end testing, right, that you were describing as still being tough on the developer side. and more broadly, what you find to be the next challenge, right, of things that are still hard, even in the context of having integrated NC Scale as of where it is today.
So when it comes to end-to-end testing, there are a few tools that are coming out that are when you can follow user by clicking. I'm thinking of Playwright that has this sort of I don't know if it's AI or if it's just a sort of visual a UI interface to do this. I think that's the next challenge that really needs to be focused on so that we have good end-to-end testing. If what I think is the hardest today is mostly the dependency part, and I've been talking to Benoit quite a lot on that. When it comes to Bubble, what's very easy is that the front, the back end, and the database is in the same area. And when you start to decouple and have modular approach to architecture, dependency becomes much harder. Now, at least for citizen developers, there's a way for us to do this by sending in different queries, parameters, so that we can track users. But it gets quite technical very quickly, and we'd need to have a tool that sort of integrates that quite easily.
Thank you very much. It was really insightful. I wanted to know, what about documentation? How do you propagate the information? How do you teach your team to be able to use all these tools or have the best practices with regards to the security? Well, the question is for the three of you. Thank you.
I think you are the best to answer to this.
So this is actually super interesting. Documentation is an issue that we have all the time. I don't know if WeWeb is here, but I know that WeWeb are working on an automatic documentation that will be built instantly by taking a snapshot of your application. So that's something that will be useful for documentation purposes. Today, what I do in terms of training is that, so at Theodore we have lots of instances where we teach developers best practices for hours on. I've also done what we call dojos or training sessions that are 2-3 hours so that they know what the best practices are. And I keep a quite rigid approach to reading code and to equivalent of what we would call pull requests in the reading pull request in the development world, which is basically going over apps, making sure that I'm always with my teams to sort of have hand-on-hand experience with them.
And for ourselves at GoJob, we have a base of knowledge, and every time we have something to share. So we have a lot of documentation, but we have designed a good way to do documentation. For example, we have functional documentation to explain what the workflow do, for example, or technical documentation specifically for product builders, where we go inside the automation and talk about a specific formula or specific behavior of an automation. And in this base of knowledge, which is in Notion, when we learn something and we want to share with it, we write it directly in this base of knowledge, and we also have rituals as well. We can share, for example, we see each other every week to share all these good practices and be careful to do the same thing everywhere.
And in code, you add many comments inside your code. And I think we need to use the same way in NoCode. You have so many documentation features inside all NoCode tools. On Xano, on WeWeb, on Bubble. You have notes, you can add comments. On Airtable, you can add a description for each field. But it's not enough, because you don't have the big picture. And that's why we worked hard on the dependencies with NC Scale, is to be able to find all where are the things in your NoCode infrastructure. And for example, for Airtable field, where it is used in my entire scenarios. And so we did something universal for this. So you can search anything, so it is a full text search that Anthony said. And so you have the documentation inside each tool, and you can use full text search to just find the dependencies. And so if you want to search for one feature, just by one search, you can find all the scenarios, all the things in your NoCode assets that are used for this feature. So it is a good workaround to use no-code documentation native features plus a dependency search to better understand if you didn't build it or if you just forget how it was built.
If I can complete what you say, in our no-code automation, we have to interact with Postgre databases or BigQuery databases, and we have a lot of dependencies with the developers and our internal tools. So the full text search is really helpful when we have PostgreSQL requests in our automation, because we can easily find a dependency not inside our no-code ecosystem, but with all of our ecosystems, so all databases. So it's really great.
You are pushing boundaries.
We have time for one last question.
Hello, thank you for the talk. Two things. First things about documentation. I think we should all share our best practices, because documentation is not only documentation. For example, your Airtable automation, it's like making a map of all your services, all your processes, everything, which is going maybe a little bit farther than NC scale. So this is the first thing. So I think we should create some kind of, I don't know, maybe inside the community to discuss and to show what we've done, because I did almost the same thing as you did, maybe not the same way. And I would be interested in knowing exactly what you did and why you did it. So that's the first thing. A second thing, the problem is when you have an hybrid architecture between code and no code, because you end up having tools for no code developers and tools for code developers. And personally, I don't want that. I want to use only one platform, and code is no code is the same thing. So I use NC Scale. I'm very happy with it. But at the same time, I can't use the same tools as our developer use it. And this is a problem because we just duplicate stack. So we have to find some kind of, I don't know, way to communicate, to do things in different ways. So I don't know if you have this kind of problem, but in my case, it is a problem because we duplicate everything. So we duplicate the knowledge, and we have to explain everything, and we can use the same tools. Thank you.
Have you a final word for this?
So I have the same problem that you do have with two tools interacting in hybrid architectures. It's something that I haven't solved at all. I'm already trying to have one for the entire low-code and one for the no-code, for custom code. But I totally agree with you. It's a great SaaS idea if anyone wants to do that. So yeah, basically it's a real issue for me too. I just haven't solved it yet.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you.